are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the College Loop Podcast. I'm Dylan Larck, able to take on Twitter. Here's our latest Auburn Athletics news as your Auburn Tigers are 2-0 on the season, number 24 in the nation, as mentioned in the last episode, the first time since November 2021, where the Auburn Tigers were ranked in the top 25. Up next for the Tigers is the University of South Alabama, the Jaguars of Mobile. Now, this again is the game where Auburn should come out on top. But Hugh Freeze to talk about this team and, how Auburn should try to avoid it being a trap game. I mentioned Major Applewhite, a very solid play caller, and also a Petrino is down there as well. So Auburn's defense is to be on their best game no matter what the difference in talent is. And that's something Hugh Freeze has really talked about. I'm going to go through some of his what he talked about in his press conference yesterday, and then I'll get into my 5 ways Auburn can avoid the trap game. So we'll get through that, and then we'll get to that point. It'll be very quick, don't worry. So first thing to talk about was kind of the leadership on the defense, highlighting, how the tackling was much improved going from game 1 to game 2. Which was huge. I mean, Sylvester Smith made a lot of big-time tackles. Xavier Atkins, a person that Hugh Freeze compared motor-wise to Eugene Asante, which is probably one of the highest compliments a linebacker can really get, just for sheer energy. Kieran Crawford had such a great game with 2 sacks. And overall, the D-line has been a very solid rotation going forward, and it's so good that Auburn has been getting some predictions for some 4-star plus defensive linemen to potentially flip to the Tigers. Special teams, best performance so far from the punting units. I'm not gonna say kicking units, but backup kicker Connor Gibbs did impress Hugh Freeze after Towns Magoo left the game with a issue. Offensive concerns, Freeze said offense did not strain despite blowout wins. I mean, not putting too much effort out there and still able to get it done. He wants more effort by the offense, though. There were a lot of plays and drives that kind of stalled out, and Auburn cannot have that, especially moving forward with the SEC schedule. It says Jackson had a very solid passing night, but negative to the offense as it gave up a lot of sacks. You cannot have that many sacks, especially in a game where you should be dominating in every front of the game, especially in the trenches. Injury reports, Damari Alston, game time decision going forward. Something happened during the Baylor game. I don't have game time decision going forward. Did go through the walkthroughs is what Hugh Freeze did mention. But again, once you get hit, it's kind of when you start understanding what you got to deal with. Darrell Robinson out with a freak injury that happened. And I'm still trying to get it to, I don't even know what the exact name for it is called. It was like a collection of blood on his leg and he had to get rushed to UAB. So hopefully Darrell Robinson is okay. They did mention about for undetermined amount of time. But, they want to make a very good run against Ball State on Saturday. Towns Magoo is doing okay after the turf issue that happened to him. But ultimately what this means, with Damari also being a game time decision, Darrell Robinson being out, it means you're going to see a lot more of Jeremiah Cobb and, probably a little bit more of Eric Singleton too. I imagine this game you're going to have a little bit more balanced attack and more so than it kind of just happening, more so it being the scheme and the plan. You're going to see some Jackson Arnold runs. You're going to see a lot of Eric Singleton runs. I imagine you'll probably see a lot of Preston Howard in the backfield too. Because again, Cobb, not the pass blocker out of this front and back room. But I will say, I think Omar Mabson will also see the field quite a few times as well as possibly A-Train, but I don't know if A-Train will. I think he is probably on the chopping block per se in terms of getting that red shirt. But I think Auburn has a very good stable of running backs. And again, I think A-Train, whenever he is ready to get on that field, he is going to be an absolute dog for the Auburn Tigers. And then last couple things he kind of mentioned, he talked about that South Alabama has some players and, has the offensive capabilities to do some damage to Auburn's defense, especially if Auburn reverts back to Baylor's defense they played. Again, tackling cannot be a problem for the Tigers. And also something Freeze mentioned, kind of just a little bit of a fun fact. 2 of his former coworkers, former coaches, are on the South Alabama staff as well. So that could easily play into a factor as well. So what I want to get into today, I just want to talk about my 5 ways Auburn can avoid the trap game against South Alabama. Again, I'm not sure this is going to be a trap game scenario. I would probably put, I can't put money on it. But I'm confident to say I think Auburn will take care of business in this game. And of course, the pregame show will be the time for me to make my predictions. But my first thing is, dominate the trenches early. I think that's something that Auburn's been doing extremely well thus far this season, especially to these first 2 games. The defensive line has done a great job of rotating and getting guys in. Jared Smith, Darian Smith, Malik Blockton has been great so far this year. Malik Autry, Jordan Crawford, all those guys. I mean, the D-line has looked very, very good thus far. The linebacker room has also been doing extremely well, and on the blitz as well. I mean, Xavier Atkins getting 2 sacks. I don't know what more you can want from a guy who I think was now seen very underratedly going into this season. Excuse me, I got a dry cough going on. On the other side of the ball, though, the offense needs to step up from where they were. So we saw an adverse from game 1 to game 2. I think Auburn's offensive line, I think when they focus on the run game, they're very dominant. But that pass pro is inconsistent. Auburn cannot have that when you're playing a team like Oklahoma and Texas A&M and Georgia, who pride themselves on having defenses that are going to get to the quarterback. So the O-line needs to step up and set the tone early, open up the running game, and, of course, make sure that the quarterback does not get sacked. So that's something Auburn needs to do. One of the things Auburn needs to do to avoid the trap game in this scenario. Number 2, I have improved offensive strain and execution or consistency. Just Auburn putting in the utmost effort into this game to make sure drives do not stall. You need to be able to finish your blocks, finish the plays, make those home run plays whenever you can find them. Be able to make the safe play if the home run is not there. Find your check downs. Don't get stuck in 3rd and longs. Don't rely on, just trying to play it safe. Auburn should be able to dominate this game from the 15-minute mark of the first quarter to the 0-0 mark of the 4th quarter. This offense needs to find their true identity moving forward. And I think they're doing a good job of finding a balance, but we have not seen a full balance yet. And again, Ball State stat-wise showed it, but the balance was not through all 4 quarters. The balance was, really trying to focus on the pass game, and then, the run game happened. And then, honestly, a lot of those yards Jeremiah Cobb got was from that 1 touchdown run that he had. So finding the balance will be great for Auburn, especially whenever you're able to establish the identity. And I will say some of the best Auburn teams that I can remember in recent memory were known for those balanced offenses, the ability to make the passes and abilities to run the football. 04, 10, and 17. I think are some of the best teams in Auburn football history. 13, relied heavily on the run game, could make the passes when they needed to, but ultimately they relied heavily on the run game. 2019, that was a lot of defense and a vanilla offense doing all of that. But I think 2017 is like a prime example of that 3,000-yard passer and a 1,000-yard rusher. That's something I could see Auburn doing this year if they're able to find that balance. Up next, win the turnover battle. This is something that we can talk about ad nauseum at this point. Just don't turn over the football. Auburn's been doing a decent job of not doing that. Haven't really had any turnovers, I don't think, at all unless I'm blanking on one off the top of my head. I got to look it up just to make sure that I'm not being crazy or whatnot. But Auburn has forced a turnover, which is a good sign. And I'm trying to find this, but now I'm blanking. If Auburn has had a turnover, no interceptions. I'll say that. I know that for a fact, and of course that was a big issue last season. But I mean, you have to be able to keep the ball on your possession, and I don't know how to find it in a quick and orderly time. But with a guy like Major Applewhite, the head coach for USA, he can make plays. He can draw up something. If Auburn gives them 25 yards to work with, 35 yards to work with, anything inside the 50. But Auburn's doing a good job of kind of holding on to the football for the most part, been able to get the ball back for the most part as well. I guess the one turnover I can really think of is the Malcolm Simmons muff punt, but I think he did end up picking that up. So, yeah, there have been some fumbles, but Auburn's been picking them back up. But you need to continue to do that. And what you need to do is also force more turnovers. I mean, Auburn got their first turnover of the year against Ball State, but something they should be doing is trying to get USA to turn the football again. Auburn's defense has been known in the past for being those turnover monsters and being able to force those interceptions, making plays in the air. And Auburn's already found ways to put the ball on the ground for the other team. So, continuing to do that, get pressure on the quarterback, force those bad throws. USA is a very athletic quarterback, so it could end up being an issue early, but I think ultimately Auburn will force them to make mistakes with just how good this defensive line has been thus far. Up next, I have special teams consistency. Now, again, this is an issue Auburn's been dealing with now for 2 years, going to last year for that. Alex McPherson is not going to be kicking the long ball for until he is ready for it. But I mean, Towns McGee missed a kick short. He got hurt on that play. But Auburn needs to get back in the habit of having those reliable points at some point on the field. If you're at the 40 or you're at the 35, Auburn fans should be like, okay, we can get at least 3 here. And another thing, do not drop the punt. Do not muff the punt. For the love of everything that is holy in this world, I'm at the point where I'm like, if I'm a football coach, do I even bother having a return man back there? It worries me every single time I see it happen. And it's not just an Auburn thing. It's a football issue in general that punts are getting harder to catch, I guess. You need to continue the momentum you have in the return game, but you need to be able to hold on to the football. Rayshon Pleasant has already scored 1 rushing touchdown this year, and I think he can score a couple more, if not a little more than a couple. So just continuing to find the consistent ground on the special teams side of the football. Good Lord, I'm not going to stop coughing. All right, last thing I have for the 5 reasons Auburn can stay mentally or can avoid the trap game or the possible upset in this game. Stay mentally locked in. Now, again, some of the drives stalled out versus Ball State. You're not going to score on every drive. It's a hard thing to do in football is score on every single drive. But what you need to do is make sure you're aware this game is happening now. South Alabama is happening now. Hugh Freeze has said, he's not going to overlook USA. Neither should the team. Don't play down to your competition in that way either. Auburn has had issues in the past of playing down to their opponents. Jacksonville State in 2015, 2016. New Mexico State a couple years ago. I would even say Vanderbilt last year. Auburn's got more talent than a lot of these teams. Auburn has some of the most talent in the SEC. So they should be winning these games by sheer talent and talent alone. Don't look ahead to Oklahoma. Take the win and find what you can fix to move forward. Always have less things to fix week by week. And, tackling was an issue against Baylor that was looked to be fixed at Ball State. Now blocking's the issue that needs to be fixed going into Oklahoma. So take what you can learn and go forward after the clock hits 0 in the fourth quarter of this game, or Auburn is up by too much that you're out by the third quarter. So that's a big thing here is don't let the fact that this is just a G5 Sun Belt team overshadow the fact that Auburn has struggled in these games before. Auburn has lost this game before. Other teams have lost these games before. And again, I mean, Auburn's paying USA to come to Auburn to play. And I would very much enjoy the fact if Auburn was not on like that very long list of teams that have paid for a team to beat them. So make sure you treat this game like it's any other game on your schedule, and Auburn will do fine. But now just kind of just talking about this game in general. I mean, I'm not going to give a prediction, but again, Auburn has the talent to win this game. Auburn has the talent and the momentum to absolutely dominate in this game. It comes down to a few guys. Jackson Arnold, he's going to be the focal point of the season in general. He continue to play consistently, continue to not make mistakes, continue to make plays when you can find them. Don't try to force plays. Make the plays when they can happen. And, don't be afraid of the check down. That was a big issue I saw versus Ball State. The incapability to just take the check down, to just try to scramble up for a little bit. I think you're going to see a little bit more Jackson Arnold's legs in this game. I think with you losing 2 running backs, possibly. I'll say 1.5 just because, Damari might be back. But again, I'm not going to – I wouldn't try to rush Damari back on the field. You're going to need Damari later on in the year. And again, Auburn needs to find ways to block the quarterback. You cannot go into Norman. You cannot go into College Station. You cannot welcome Georgia. You cannot welcome a team like Alabama, despite, their record. They're going to find ways to get to the quarterback. And if you're letting them run by you, it's going to happen. And that leads to errant throws. That leads to turnovers. That leads to potential injuries. That leads to a freshman quarterback getting thrown to the Sharks in the middle of an SEC football game. So Auburn needs to stay mentally locked in this game. Auburn needs to stay focused and get ready for South Alabama. Of course, we have the pregame show coming up on Thursday. We'll be pregaming this particular matchup between Auburn and South Alabama, and then, of course, doing our little pick'ems at the end. Had a little bit of a better week this week, I might say. But yeah, guys to watch. Jackson Arnold's going to be at the top of that list no matter what. Omar Mabson, young Bucks got to step up. 17-year-old running back making an impact whenever the team needs him to. And, of course, that's defense. If they continue to play like they did against Ball State, despite the name of the team, Auburn's defense looked great. And that's exactly the kind of defense I was expecting from Auburn going into this year. Auburn right now, I think they are – like atop of some lists in terms of defensive yard, in terms of like offensive yards allowed. They're like tied for first in sacks this year. Like Auburn's defense has been pretty dominant despite the missed tackles that happened versus Baylor just a couple weeks ago. But yeah, I think that this game has the capability to be a trap game. I'm just not sure it is going to be one. Of course, I think Auburn's going to have some recruits in the stands, which is going to be big time. I saw the video. I wasn't there for the game, of course, on Saturday, but I saw the videos. Dude, that atmosphere looks crazy. And Kentucky is the game I'm currently favored to go to right now, and I'm really hoping they turn it to a night game. If not, I'm going to be so sad because, dude, it looked so awesome. And I love everything Auburn's doing. I love that they're allowing the fans to kind of help out, make sure the game day atmosphere is rocking at all moments. So, again, yeah, this game could end up being a trap game, but I think Auburn has it figured out, knock on wood, to where they should dominate this game. More so than they did against Ball State, because I think there's that mentality now and the coaching moments to where the drives that stalled won't happen again. Again, this game could be closer than that game, strictly because the offense from South Alabama is better than Ball State. But we'll talk about it later on the Thursday edition of the College Loop podcast. That's going to do it for this time of the College Loop. Of course, I'm Dylan. I want to take on Twitter. You can find me on Instagram as well at Dylan DYLNLARCK. And of course, from me right in the College Loop podcast, where you like, comment, and subscribe. Again, getting very, very close to that 1,000 subscriber margin. As the day's gone along, I've gotten like 1 subscriber a day. So we're looking at 958, just 42 subscribers away from 1,000. Be super cool to reach that milestone. Of course, leave me your way too early thoughts and predictions on Auburn versus South Alabama, and what players are you looking to, start to emerge. I mean, Cam Coleman had himself a day versus Ball State and didn't even hit 100 yards. I'd be interested to see whenever Auburn does finally have a receiver to hit that margin. It could be this game, but I think it's probably going to be one of the SEC games whenever teams start dialing on the run game. But that means that the College League podcast yet again. Like and subscribe. And as always, War Eagle.